Let's have a look at tomorrow's for you with Nabila Ramdani and Julia Hartley-Brewer. Good to see you both. I mean, obviously one story is dominating all of the papers because it is such big news. We'll kick off with The Guardian, with a manhunt for Gaddafi, they say, Nabila. I mean, clearly now, getting Colonel Gaddafi, I mean, presumably either dead or alive. It's difficult to assess exactly what is likely to happen with that, but that's going to be the key to sealing this, isn't it?
Well, very much so. I think he's going to be the trophy, really, if the rebel forces, or indeed with the help of NATO, can get him. It's going to seal the deal, if I may say so. And interestingly, he's nowhere to be seen, but he's still believed to be in Tripoli. He's really the kind of man who, given his character over the years and how he has always been in that position of the hard man defying the West, and has been defiant until the very end, sending all these audio messages, calling for resistance,
But everyone's brave while they've still got their armed guard. I mean, if you remember how we found Saddam Hussein living in a hole beneath the ground. I mean, what's interesting is actually the National Transitional Council stating today, which is effectively the political wing of the rebel forces, saying they want to find him alive and they want to bring him to trial inside Libya, not taken to The Hague.
Well, I think that's crucial that they find him alive, because otherwise it will reflect bad on them.
Yeah, I think it's important also it's rebel forces that find him and not any NATO forces, which actually, officially aren't there, other than, of course, military advisors on the ground.
I mean, some of the key points that the paper's got on the front here, which really struck me, I mean, because it beautifully puts where we are, doesn't it? 3 of his sons have been arrested, he's nowhere to seen. This transformation of the campaign in 2 weeks, I mean, that has been really crucial in all of this, hasn't it, Nabila? I mean, we've seen this huge transformation from what we thought was still a stalemate less than a week ago to this massive push forward in a very short period of time.
Absolutely, and what's absolutely fascinating is that the UN mandate, for example, comes to an end at the end of this month, and dare I say, it looks very much like NATO managed to pull it out. They winged it, effectively.
I got the impression that NATO weren't really aware that it was going to go ahead when it did, and wasn't going to be as successful as it was. It seems to have taken the West by as much surprise as it's taken Gaddafi.
Well, absolutely. A few weeks ago, they were still negotiating with Gaddafi, telling him basically, you can stay in the wing of your palace, and, let's move on with the National Transitional Council, engage in talks, and let's all move on from that. But it seems like a complete reversal of situation.
It is extraordinary.
And also an awful lot of twists and turns. Yesterday, only a few hours ago, we thought, we were fearing a bloodbath and a bitter fight between rebel forces and Gaddafi. And it was staggering to see how the rebel forces were actually allowed to reach Green Square with very little resistance.
Yes.
But now the Gaddafi forces are putting on a last show of force,
the last
show of strength.
But what's interesting is you look at the footage, and it was so reminiscent of Baghdad in 2003.
The shooting down of the flag and all that sort of thing.
Yes, and you do just think, are we in 8 years' time going to be looking back? I've been fully supportive of this all the way along. I think it would have been outrageous for us not to have offered some military support, and very in favour of the NATO's role. But you do wonder, in 8 years' time, are we going to be looking back and maybe having a Chilcot-style inquiry and saying, what went wrong?
Well, the footage we got from Alex last night was incredible, and actually Luke Harding...
I wanted to go to bed. I couldn't go to bed. It was absolutely brilliant viewing. It really was.
It was absolutely amazing what she managed to get out on that live feed. But, another analysis here from Luke Harding, who's also reporting from Tripoli. Again, it's reiterating what we know about. We talk about it, for a few brief hours, Tripoli's Green Square was a tranquil place yesterday, then transformed into an attack by Gaddafi loyalists and then taken over by the rebels, or revolutionaries as they want to be called now. Who can blame them for that? And yet here we are 24 hours on, and there is still now this ongoing issue, these pockets of resistance, which are causing a lot of problems for the rebels and a lot of fatalities as well.
Tripoli is the key to Libya, effectively. It's not only because it's Gaddafi's stronghold.
It's a quarter of the population. It's
of course, but it just shows that the key to winning all this is not just entering Tripoli or indeed winning Tripoli, but holding down a city which has been under Gaddafi's control for 42 years and which has been shaped by Gaddafi as well.
But one of the things that the National Transitional Council are talking about is offering a free route home, for the mercenaries, because so many of Gaddafi's fighting forces have been foreign mercenaries, African fighters, and offering them a sort of free passage home. You can surrender and you'll be safe, and not entering into it, not starting a bloodbath. I mean, it's early days. I'm absolutely joyful for the people of Libya. I spoke to so many people on LBC today, people from Libya, who felt absolute, just jubilation. But you just hope that things will just calm down and the right things will be done.
Let's I mean, it's an interesting picture story as much as anything for the papers. No surprise there. That's a great shot on the front of the Guardian. The FT got that shot as well, which is clearly very much a celebratory image, and it's the look on faces of guys like this, isn't it?
Yes.
That we saw again on Alex's footage last night, which was absolutely remarkable, right in the heart of Tripoli.
What I thought was interesting, though, was, again, all the footage from last night, and it was totally couldn't stop, we just couldn't turn off the TV, but also all the footage we've seen since, it's all, basically, the people of Libya celebrating. Actually, it's all men. You're really hard pushed to see a woman anywhere on the streets. It makes you remember, actually, these societies are very, very different.
Let's not forget that, in the early stages when Gaddafi was organising, public events to rally people around him, you look at the audience in the rooms, they were mainly women. And yesterday we actually saw a news reporter holding a gun and calling for, resistance. So, and of course Gaddafi is famous for having female bodyguards as well. So,
but you do have to look at all of this. We've had the comments, haven't we, from the Prime Minister and from President Obama today, saying Gaddafi needs to surrender now to bring peace to this. And you look at the shots that we've got here from Alex last night. And, I mean, there is an inevitability about this. And these are the scenes you were talking about earlier on, Julia, reminiscent of Baghdad, with that Gaddafi flag painted onto a building being just shot away. I mean, these sort of things, you can't quell this type of enthusiasm and momentum.
It's a question, isn't it, of what happens now. I mean, I know, obviously, Iraq and Libya are very different things. One is, we were waging war in Iraq, whether people like it or not. Yeah, it was American and British forces, particularly American forces, who were entering Baghdad when we saw that. This is Libyan people, freeing themselves. It's a very, very different statement. But also in terms of, it's a tribal society as opposed to having, Shiites and Muslims or Sunni Muslims that are fighting against each other. The make-ups of the societies are... We do have a habit, I think, in this country, in the West generally, of all Middle Eastern countries are all the same, and actually they've got a very different history. They're very, very well-educated people. We haven't... The infrastructure's not damaged, largely. Things are still intact. There is still a very strong chance that, if you had to put your money either way, I would say this would be a successful revolution.
Yeah, but also you were referring to, Steve, the acts of, pulling down the flags, getting rid of Gaddafi's pictures. It's, all these are symbolic acts to effectively get rid of Gaddafi's legacy and try to move on and try to get rid of, his 42-year rule. And
it is astonishing, isn't it? He's been about my entire life. Yes. I find this extraordinary.
It's quite staggering, actually.
Yeah.
When you think
well, look, more on this, of course, coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll have more on the papers for you, including The Independent, which has just reached us a picture there of Colonel Gaddafi being set alight. More on that, and hopefully talking to Kim Sengupta, who's in Tripoli as well. Stay with us.